Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Not only are you joined by my smooth jazz voice, but we've got a very special guest with us today who's able to share their knowledge on level design and talk about an interesting analogy. And I'm joined by the lovely Kai Zheng. Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kai Zheng. Glad to be here to talk about level design.
Awesome, mate. We're glad to have you here, mate. We've been talking about this for a while, and we finally got it together. Only time difference was stopping us.
But first, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is none other than me. What I've done, everyone, and I hope you're excited for this, is I've actually created a level design kind of store. What I've done in this store is put up different kinds of tips and tricks that you can find there, whether that be my actual ebook itself to that of level design pamphlets focused on different things such as traversal, stealth, breaking into the industry, as well as different talks that I have done which you cannot find anywhere else other than on this store. So if you are looking to improve on your level design skills and processes, then check out the Level Design Store, which will be down in the description below, where there'll be a link to find this. All you need to do is head over to gumroad.com/level design lobby. I hope you like what you see, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you, and now back to the show.
So, mate, tell us a little bit, for the listeners' sake, a little bit about yourself and like how you got involved in level design.
Sure, yeah. So I've been working in the industry for about 12 years now. And I actually been doing level design before, as like a student. And for me, that's always my passion. And so it's actually really, for me, I feel like I'm lucky to be doing something that I love as a job. So technically, I'm not working because I'm doing something I love. And my last project is God of War on PS4. And before that, I was working at EA, and I worked on the Battlefield series, the Dead Space series, and my first project at EA actually is Dante's Inferno. And and that is also actually a pretty special project. I'm probably gonna mention it later. But I think the most important thing is that that project is where I kind of got this idea of the analogy between cooking, food, and designing levels. It's actually mentioned by one of my mentors on that project. And he mentioned it casually, but it actually just stuck in my head. And it kind of grew on me over the years. So hopefully today I can share that thought with you and maybe like help you find your own way to like understand game design and level design. If not, at least I hope this conversation can, lighten up your mood, during these like challenging times.
That's it, man. I'm sure it will. And before you get into this analogy, mate, because I'm really excited to hear about it, I just want to say I love Dead Space as well, and I've always wanted to meet someone who made Dead Space. And so,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for making those, because I really did love the series, and the first one especially, and everything was just great. So, yeah, just thank you for making that one, mate.
Good to know. Yeah, as you can see, my experience has been heavily focused on single player, story driven, linear AAA action games. But before jumping into that narrow topic, I think I want to basically make some comparisons of game genres to cuisine types.
Awesome.
And,
please go.
And I mean, don't take these comparison too seriously, but I think they're a good way to kind of start the conversation. And to me, AAA games, they're more like 10-course meals in a French restaurant. It's basically it's something you need time and money to really enjoy it properly. I know a lot of people who don't have time in their lives to, you know, sit down in front of the TV, or like money to buy like, you know, consoles and, you know, latest graphics card to play those AAA games. And, you know, they will, you know, play casual games or like games on the phone. And to me, like those games are like snack food. It's cheap, it's fast, it's consistent, but it's actually like completely kind of experience. So yeah, hopefully those analogies are like easy to understand. And I guess I'm gonna try some more like potentially controversial analogies.
Just bringing it to them. No, mate, that sounds like a great idea. I think you're right, because I don't want to cut you off in your flow, especially when you're saying like the cuisine, the courses, and the time and money it costs to get some more of the high-end tech. I think that's a really smart way to put it.
To me, like open world games, they're more like a buffet. There are like tons of things for you to do or choose from, and you can spend as long as you want in there. I guess until you get fed up with the offerings. So I don't know how you feel about that, because like technically you are working on like an open world game. So maybe I completely butchered that.
We've just become mortal enemies now, mate. That's what's happened. Mortal enemies from here. No, I mean it's an interesting way, because it is because you described it in the sense that, you know, like, I mean, when I play open world or when we make open world games, we know that players won't necessarily do all of the open world activities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a way that makes sense, right? We're making it so it's not necessarily a distraction from the story, but a fun way for the players to invest time in something else. So it's, I mean, we're mortal enemies, like I said, mate, but I think you still have very valid points in how you're saying it, mate.
Right. And I guess next one for me, like indie games, they're like street food. And I mean that in the best, you know, intention possible, because I love indie games. Like to me, like when you try street food, you don't really know what to expect. And it's usually not a refined experience, like a polished game. But sometimes you can find some really surprising and good and unique, and that's kind of, to me, what I like about indie games.
Yeah, I like that analogy, mate. That's really nice. I like that one.
Yeah. So for the last one, I'm really having like hard time finding a good analogy. I'm basically talking about immersive sims. You know, games like you know, Dishonored, immersive like Deus Ex. You know.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So the best one I can come up with is it's like a salad bar, where you help yourself, because like, you know, immersive sim to me it has like a relatively narrow audience. Like, so, you know, salad bar as compared to, you know, like a burger restaurant, where it's like, you know, most people would like a burger.
Yeah.
Right. But when you go to like a salad bar, you know, where you help yourself, if you know how to, you know, use the ingredients and, you know, combine them, and then you kind of you can have a really good experience. Something that's really, you know, about yourself, something that's, you know, something you personally would really enjoy. And to me, that's like something, you know, like for immersive sims, like the players really need to know how to play this kind of game to really enjoy it. It's that high barrier of entry. To me, that's what makes the genre kind of unique. But again, I think this one's really hard to find a good comparison.
No, I agree, and especially with the fact that, you know, like you mentioned with it, is immersive sims were known as, and I don't use this in a disrespectful way, because I love them. I love these type of games.
Me too.
But like I said, they're not as popular, you know, in a sense. But when you play them, you can really just spend hours and hours of time in them, because it is so fun inside them. And I love the most recent Dishonored and Deus Ex. They're all brilliant. So no, I think it's a tough one to describe, but I think you're right, because it's about, if you like it enough, like it's like being dedicated to a salad diet, right? We all know we need to do it, But like you said, we'd rather have the burger. But yeah, no, it's a tough one to do. But I think you've got that one nailed, mate.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're gonna take anything away from these comparisons, to me, it's like as a level designer, it's actually, it's designing for different genres. Actually, it can be quite different of a task. Even though, like, to me, level design is a pretty narrow of a career. Like, it actually can get even more narrow if you want to be really good at your genre. So, and to me, like, a level designer really needs to know what kind of genre you're in and know the rules. And I'm not saying like you have to follow the rules 100% of the time, but when you know the rules and you know when you break them, you do it for a reason. You're consciously breaking the rules, or you're consciously saying, okay, usually for this genre, they don't have this ingredient, but what if we do add it? If we want to do something like a fusion cuisine, what can you do? What can you get from there?
No, I like that. I think it's, like I said, it's understanding the rules and when to break them. That's when you can have the really, amazing moments in the game. And I wanted to ask you this, mate, because you said your career has been very, like, linear level design, story focused. How has that been, because I've only done open world games, and I always find it interesting to see these other games like Immersive Sims or that of open world linear games to now battle royales, for example. And I always think, I wonder what it's like, and for you to be doing this 12 years and in a way you've specialized in the games that you make, what's it been like seeing the industry, I guess, grow in different directions?
I think it's actually getting a little bit disencouraging in the sense that this type of experience actually is becoming, I guess, more of a rare thing. Because I know, like, first of all, like, players these days have a lot more choices than just like playing on the PC or console. They can play on the phone. They can, they will start being able to stream games, and also there's like a lot more types of games, even on PC and console. We got tons of more like indie games. We got battle royale games. We got all these new different genres, I would say. So in comparison, I think the old like $60 30-hour linear AAA experience actually is becoming increasingly rare these days, and partially because a lot of the studios or publishers are also gone now, and partially I think it's because it's just so risky. On this project, like if you fail one or two of these, you are basically going down, and it's kind of like sad to see. But at the same time, I as a gamer myself, I'm totally welcoming the variety, the increasing amount of choices that we get as gamers. So overall, I'm pretty optimistic. But linear AAA experiences are, they're not getting. You're not getting more of those.
Yeah. No, it is an odd one to see it all change, and I think you answered that one so well, mate. But I've cut you off the cuisine again, mate. But yeah, do you want to carry on with the analogy, mate?
Sure. Yeah. And again, I want to focus on like level design and potentially level design on like more like linear AAA games.
Yeah.
And one thing I think there's us as a level designers, where we have something in common to cooks, in the sense that we kind of use different ingredients and combine them to, create like cooks create meals, but we kind of create levels. And there's actually like a lot of things we can learn by just looking at what cooks do and what we do. Sometimes we actually learn a lot. And one thing in particular for me is that it's usually a common mistake for level designers to try to put a lot of different things into one level. And to me, that's like putting too many ingredients into one dish. Because I know I did that when I was like 3 years old and like pretending to be cooking a meal for myself. I would, like, add more salt, add more sauce, put all the sauce in there. And, and to me, when you put too many ingredients into one dish, it becomes really hard to kind of taste any of the individual ones, because it's really hard to appreciate any one single thing. And to me, like, as professional level designers, our job is to find the best way to use the ingredients we were given, but mix them up, but only pick ones that you think you really need. And I know it might be a little bit abstract, but I'm gonna try to give some examples. For me, on projects like, say, the God of War on PS4, we usually challenge ourselves to come up with interesting scenarios with fewer mechanics in a single scenario. Like, for example, a classic God of War trope is to use one object for multiple purposes. For example, if I use a push box to block the exit of the room, I want the player to, push the box away so they can get out. As a designer, I will also put a secret treasure chest somewhere that you have to use the box to get to. So basically the box is being used twice. And in that way, you don't have to have so many things in that room, but you can still have interesting things, a lot of, layers to your design by using like a limited amount of ingredients.
That's brilliant. I have someone that mentioned, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's like, when you're designing mechanics, design more depth, not breadth. And I think that sums up perfectly what you said there, which is fantastic. No, I love that.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty common for like a linear kind of game to limit the amount of stuff we put in one room. I think the other way to look at this is actually intentionally removing some of the things from an area. I think a good example is actually, spoiler warning, potentially, I'm going to talk about The Last of Us 2. In the Space Museum level, it's a very narrative-focused level where they actually didn't have any combat, any puzzle. They just really focused on, you walking through the space, talking to your companion, interacting with the space, and there's also like a cutscene there to kind of highlight the emotional impact. And to me, that's very smart in quite a few different ways. Like, one, they specifically set the goal here to have basically like an emotional narrative moment, and decided we're capable of engaging the player without needing to have combat or puzzle in there. I think that's the confidence and also the courage we sometimes need in order to basically say we're not going to use certain ingredients. And the other thing I think it's really smart about that is the moment in the game where this sequence actually happens. It actually happens, I think, between two very brutal and emotionally harsh sequences in the game. And to me, that's another way to kind of plan a player experience and not just like design a level. And to me, that's like another good way to kind of learn from, the restaurant industry, is that the really good restaurants or the top chefs, they're not creating a menu. They're not cooking the food. They're actually, focused on creating like a dining experience. And that to me is something we can learn as well.
At Level Design Lobby, we believe everybody has a story to tell. Hobbyist or student, freelancer or veteran, we made it our mission to unite those who share our passion for creating and developing great games. Thanks to our generous Patreon backers, we've been able to do just that. So if you've already pledged your support, thank you. If not, you too can ensure the future of Level Design Lobby, helping us to create even more exciting content, collaborations, interviews, and much more. With awesome perks and rewards, whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, you're sure to find something for you. Want to share tips, tricks, and advice with passionate, like-minded developers? Our awesome community Discord has you covered. Fancy practicing your level design, creating strong portfolio content, and having fun? Then try our level design weekends. Or perhaps you want to individually discuss your work, hone your skills, or level up your career? Then consider our one-on-one mentorships. If you share our vision, then go to patreon.com/Level Design Lobby for more information and to pledge your support. Thank you.
When you think of the difference between the cook and the chef, a cook really, he cares about the food, and the chef, he designs the whole experience and he also manage the team behind that experience. And to me, like, level designer should always aim to be more than a cook. And how do we do that? To me, of course, like you kind of have to always try to design like experience and not individual scenarios. Because when I think of fine dining experience, usually it means like maybe like a prefix menu with wine pairing in the beautiful decorated environment and served by a knowledgeable staff. It's way more than just the food or the ingredients that was used to make those dishes. And to me, that actually translates pretty well into level design. Is that for all the single-player linear games that I worked on, we usually would plan those levels in big chunks, like say like an hour-long chunk, and we map out the player experience before we actually jump into any of the specific scenarios. And to me, that usually means we're gonna have to answer a few questions. Things like, what are the major story beats? What's unique about the environment or the NPCs? And what kind of new abilities just get unlocked? And is the level flow linear or branching or circular? Once you have those answers, we kind of like map out each area of the level with like an experience target. It's actually pretty similar to, say, even like open world games. The things we kind of have are like stuff like introductions, exploration, or combat, or puzzle, or traversal, boss fight, cutscenes, whatever. And to me, this step of, say, mapping out the player experience, it's like designing a menu. You want to make sure each course is kind of complemented by the course before it and after it. Like for example, you want to finish a meal with a dessert, or between the main courses, sometimes they'll give you some either dessert wine or salad or whatever to kind of clean up your palate. And that's kind of stuff that really needs to be figured out before going into each individual scenario. And of course, like the whole menu needs to build up towards the main course. That could be like a boss fight or like a cutscene or some kind of major unlock. But together, the menu kind of results in an experience that is greater than the sum of its parts. And to me, that's really what's valuable about this planning process is the experience really is what kind of elevates all the individual parts of it. I can give like one example of, again, maybe for just for the sake of not spoil anything, any other games, I'm going to use like a God of War example. One of the levels that I worked on is the Dead Frost Giant level in the latest God of War. And when I started working on that level, it's actually pretty empty, but we had a very clear goal of saying, okay, this is gonna be about this dead frost giant that is huge, that you can see from like a mile away, and this level is gonna basically be centered all around him, and you're gonna climb on him, and the whole level is kind of focused around that, and then the process really becomes like you're figuring out what kind of environment this is, and what's unique about this environment, where it kind of the character basically becomes the environment, and that kind of led to a lot of the actual designs, where it's like you are rotating his ring, you're climbing on his hammer, and even his like dreadlocks are interactive. and those ideas actually come pretty naturally once you know what the focus is. And what's less obvious, I think, is that when we actually plan out all the individual areas, we already knew that we want this area to be exploration on the lake, and we want combat here and there in those like major enclosed rooms, and we know halfway we're gonna have a like boss fight and a new ability unlock. So we kind of knew all of these things. Then after that, we can start to plan the areas that's in between those major beats, and really that's all of those things are pretty much planned out before any of the rooms are finalized. So before it's even fully playable, we know kind of what the player experience will be. And once we have that, the level really can't be that bad.
No, man, I think you're right. Also, a great level you did there, mate. It was a really good level in God of War.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a classic God of War style level, even though the new game is like in terms of mechanics or ingredients, it's quite different from the old ones.
Yes. I was going to ask then, because you mentioned earlier in this section of your analogy about designing the experience, like you said, not just necessarily the food, but the menus, the restaurant, having the knowledgeable staff. In terms of when you're creating or making these levels, obviously we work with environment artists, animators, effects artists, and many other amazing and talented people. How is it do you find that you best communicate to make sure everyone's on the same page for when you're working on a level together?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually the next thing I want to talk about.
We're in sync, mate.
Yeah, because really, like when you're working on AAA linear story-driven games, it usually means you have a huge team working with you, and you really want to make sure you kind of use the experts from other departments to help the level become the best it can be. And to me, yeah, like a dining experience is more than the course itself, and a level is also more than just the level design. And a lot of times you can have a mediocre level design and still a great experience, because sometimes it's not about just the level design. It's sometimes maybe the cutscene is great, maybe the environment art takes it away, and like a smart level design really want to make sure you kind of convey whatever you want, what kind of experience you want the player to get. So when other people try to help you on this level, they knew to work towards a single goal. And to me, that's kind of true for level design. That's probably also true for like just game development in general. Is that when the team works on something, they can disagree on things, and sometimes there's actually not a single correct answer. But the most important thing is that everybody is working towards the same goal. And in that way, you might not always get the perfect thing, if it's such a perfect thing exists. But you can always get the most potential out of the team. And to me, that's kind of a very important part of being a level designer, is that you want to make sure people understand your goals, and you also have to kind of like steer people towards that goal when they kind of go slightly off course. And to me, like, a level design kind of want to make sure you want to proactively coordinate everybody else working on your level. That doesn't really mean like you make sure they finish their task on time. And most of the time, that's like a producer's job. And what I mean is that, like, you need to basically make sure everybody is in sync and agree on the experience that you want to get.
Completely agree, and that sometimes can be the hardest thing at the start. You know, when you mentioned about, when you talked about making sure you have those kind of key beats and moments nailed out. Because if you don't have that, like you said, if we're working on a level based on a giant robot, everyone can have a different vision of what that giant robot is.
Right. So
yeah, no, great point on that one.
Yeah, and also, frankly, like, a lot of times you just have to do some of the stuff yourself, because some of the things in the level, it's kind of blurry who actually owns it. I'll give like an example. So I also worked on the opening level for God of War, and during the opening sequence where Kratos cuts down a tree, rides the boat back to his house, we play some opening credits, and I actually spent a whole afternoon just tuning the placement and the timing of those opening credits, because there is not such a person that's called the credit scripter. And the reason I spent that much time on it is because each one of the individual credits were actually placed and timed to match the character's action at that moment, and also the camera framing at that moment. And something to me, like, if you really want to go to, like the polish and the quality of something, that's like 90 plus of a game, you kind of have to be hands-on and very detailed about, controlling every bit of the player experience. And I guess in the same level, in the front yard, there's some like trees and rocks and just placed there. And people might say, oh, just random placement, but they're not. And it's actually the result of me working with pretty much all of the other departments, because the cinematic guys need to have some rocks here during the scene. And the boss fight guy says, oh, I need, the Kratos to hit the guy into that rock. So we need another rock here, specifically lined up with whatever path they have. And also later, after the boss fight, the terrain kind of transforms and kind of opens up a new path leading to the next level. So we're going to have to talk to the guy working on the next level, and talking to the destruction artist. And so yeah, before we know it, the rocks and trees, everybody has a hand on it. And to me, that's like a good example of like a level designer having to work with all the departments in order to create all the experience points that's necessary for the whole level.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's amazing sometimes how, like you said, just placing a rock, everyone just thinks, oh, someone's just placed it there for no reason. But as you said, like, it can take iterations to find the right place for that rock, and especially as you, let's say, when other teams come in because they need something for a certain purpose. It's funny when you actually get behind the curtain and realize that.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's a lot of these things are unique to these, linear and story-driven single-player games. I think, we for other genres, it's probably the attention could be focused on other things. But yeah, I think the thing I would want people to take away from this is that if you have like a player experience in mind, the rest actually is the relatively easy part, because from there you kind of know what you have to do in order to get there.
Yeah. No, man, I think that's bang on right for it. So is there any more like you want to expand upon with your analogy for the cuisine, mate?
I think I have some thoughts about some of the recent games. I'm actually, so first of all, I want to talk about The Last of Us 2. And for people who played it, I've been asking people, how they felt about the game, and I actually don't get a lot of complaints about the usual gamer complaints, but all the professionals that I talked to, they kind of mentioned this one thing where they just felt like the game was slightly too long. And to me, I kind of agree, but I think the part of the reason, if we're gonna, put like an analogy here, is that they kind of tried to basically do like a 20-course meal, and to me, that is a very they kind of try to do it like a 20-course meal with like a limited amount of ingredients. And to me, that's a very respectable thing, because they kind of consciously made that choice of, you kind of you're almost playing the game twice. If you don't want to spoil the story, but you are kind of, in terms of like the player progression, you're playing the game twice, and that is a very risky and hard thing to get right. And also it kind of requires a very specific audience, like people who don't mind the seemingly repetitive grind, people who is ready for a 20-course meal because they are super into the story, right? So to me, it's not necessarily something wrong, it just requires a very specific audience. Like, not everybody is ready to spend 5 hours at a restaurant, doing like a 20-course meal. But that doesn't necessarily mean, it's a bad restaurant or a menu. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's been interesting hearing different thoughts on Last of Us 2. And yeah, it is a very, very good game. It's just interesting, again, catching different people's opinions, because I think one of the other things that's interesting about Last of Us 2 is the fact that to me, again, I mean this in the most respectful way, because of how the first one ended, it was almost like this game, a second game was not expected. And I think for, like you said, for them to take the risk, and it's paid off. It's, like I said, a very good game, received great amount of critical and commercial success, and I think that was also such must have been one of the more creative risks of it for what it is, and how different those two games are from the first one, Joel and Ellie traveling together through halfway across America, to, like you're saying, you're replaying, in a sense, a certain section twice over. Is very different. Yeah,
and to me, it's almost like you had a really good, I don't know, burger restaurant, and you open up a second one, and people are like, oh, we really want to check out this new thing. Then go in there, found out, okay, it's not exactly a burger restaurant. They're doing ramen burger in there, which is, super creative, and some people would really love it. But at the same time, the people who were going to the second place because they liked the first place, they might be unpleasantly surprised. And that is a kind of, that is this risk you have to take if you want to try something new. So I think it's, again, it's not for everybody, but people who is like working on the project, they are very conscious of the choice they're making, the player experience they want to get, and that, at least to the game dev, that really is all that matters.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And just talking about level design, they have some phenomenal level design in The Last of Us 2. Really nice stuff. Yes.
I actually, as a level designer, I actually really enjoyed playing that game more than as a player. And again, I think they use ingredients from their other games like Lost Legacy and things like that. It's you can tell some of their like traversal mechanics are pretty much the same thing, and their like interacts are some of the triangle interacts is the same thing, but at the same time, like, you can use the same ingredients and come up with completely different experiences. And that really is, the kind of the strengths of the team, is that they really know their ingredients and know what they can cook differently if they want to have a different kind of, experience as a target. So yeah, I think that really shows, just how good they are at what they do.
Oh, for sure, yeah. They always are, in my opinion, one of the best places for especially linear level design. I know recently they've been experimenting with Lost Legacy in Madagascar and the Seattle Day One with more kind of hub world design, in a sense, like a smaller slice of open world. And even them, especially Lost Legacy, was really, really well crafted together as well. So to see them, like we talked about with the example you gave of the ramen burger, the fact that they still have confidence in themselves to try something new. It might be something different, like we mentioned. Some people may not be as maybe put off by this new things, but they always do it and deliver it to such a high quality.
Yes, yeah, and polish, really, that's really a lot. The secret behind a lot of the success of Sony first party games is that they just spend so much time refining the player experience, and the amount of iterations they kind of have in there is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, the quality you all come out with is very insane. I will say that's the thing I think I envy versus open world versus linear. Not that you can't get the same amount of polish, it's just there's so much, not necessarily more in a grandiose way, but because you've got a lot of different elements playing, or systems playing together, it can, and that's the beauty of it, is sometimes it can create these very unique moments for players, but also you've got to try and balance out of the freedom of those unique moments versus kind of the polish and the hand scripting too. And that's the balance with such larger open world kind of experiences. That's why I think it's always fascinating to study different genres as a level designer. You can easily see where people spend their time and where they did not spend their time on. And like I said, there's no way you can get everything, and it's really about what you want to focus on. What is the main flavor or the ingredient that you want to highlight, or the main kind of experience you want to sell to the player. And that's I think that's also part of the beauty of the games. It's that it can have so many different permutations, and
each one of them have their own like depth, and you can, as a gamer, you can really, you know, there's so many different types of experiences you can have, and that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think always the perfect example, especially with open world, when you talk about different kind of methods, is when you look at, say, the Grand Theft Auto series versus, say, Assassin's Creed. The Grand Theft Auto series is so heavily dependent on, or should we say, they spend more time focusing on their actual systems, you know, how the police system works, to the point where I saw a video of GTA 5 where someone hit the player and the police were called on them. And, you know, the detail that they go into in Rockstar with their systems versus, say, Ubisoft, which is a lot more, shall we say, more about the content itself, you know, about placing them around to have more spacing to encourage exploration, is, yeah, very different. But again, it's an open world game, so yeah, different methods.
I think that's, if there's like one thing I think our talk is kind of valuable for, is that hopefully this can kind of help people find their own way of seeing level design, you know, a different lens. For me, it's like cooking. That's my analogy, but for other people, it might be music, it might be, I don't know, photography or writing or whatever, like some kind of sport, you know, if they can find their own way of looking at level design and looking at different genres of level design, I think that'd be great. That's the kind of conversation I think we should keep having.
For sure, mate. And I guess the question I have to ask you now, mate, is, are you a good cook?
I would actually consider myself a pretty good cook. I kind of actually do adhere to my own rules, which is, you know, not put everything in one pot. I kind of specifically want to have dishes where it's, you know, I don't know, hot and spicy, and one that's intentionally very sweet, but I don't ever mix them up together. And to me, that's also, you know, the joy of cooking, is that, you know, you kind of have something that is specifically designed for like experience customized to yourself or the ones you're cooking for. And it's, yeah, in a way, it's just like level design. You know, you are designing an experience and hoping the players will like that experience.
Awesome, mate. No, I will say, being from England, our cuisine tastes are kind of mash it all together, so we kind of like that. But no, that's brilliant. Is there anything else you want to mention, mate? Because I feel we've hit a good point.
Yeah, I think this is a good way to end it.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Okay. So if anyone wants to reach out and to know more about you and get more of your opinions, mate, is there any way that they can do so?
Yes. So I am recently, I guess, pretty active on Twitter, because I feel that's a good way to connect with the world and also with other level designers. And my Twitter handle is DevilPie, and you can find me over there.
I will be putting that in a link to the description below. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so as well on Twitter, which is @MaxPairs. Or if you want to email into the show, you can do so at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. So thank you so much, Kai, for coming on. Hopefully we'll get you on another point, because I'd love to hear just more of your thoughts, mate.
Sure, yes. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.